Welcome back to Double Fries No Slaw. TJ Pittenger here coming to you with some huge news for FSU football. Yesterday, Coach Mike Norvell dropped, I don't want to call it a bombshell, but man, it was good news. In his press conference, he said that Jenkins would be set to be a full go in practice next week. And this is really big for FSU's defensive line, especially with the matchup against Alabama looming in week one. Let's talk about why it's such a big deal for the Noles. Jason Jenkins, the guy is a 6'6", 276-pound beast who transferred to FSU from Tennessee this offseason. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and he brings some serious SEC experience. He had 15 tackles, 4.5 of them for loss, 2 sacks. He had a forced fumble in 20 total games for the Volunteers. Last year, he played in all 13 games for the Vols, including their college football playoff appearance. It didn't unfortunately go the way that I'm sure he would have wanted against Ohio State. He had, in 2024, a strip sack versus Mississippi State. He had a safety that he was responsible for in that Oklahoma game. Just overall, a really productive piece that Florida State was looking to have as part of their rotation. The catch, though, is that he missed all of spring camp with a lower leg injury, according to reports. There were questions about not only if he'd be ready to start the season for that massive matchup against Alabama on August 30th, but also really the full season. I spoke with some people who really, when the injury happened, thought like this could be maybe you get him back late in the year, but by that time we probably kind of know what the season we've had has been. And you've had other people, hopefully rise to the occasion to be able to play. And how much of an impact, how much would it really matter if you got him back late in the year? But Coach Norvell saying that he is on track to be full go in practice next week is big for the Seminoles. This isn't the first video we've done on this. We had some sources. We talked to you about this maybe a month and a half ago about how we were thinking that things might be a little closer than originally anticipated, and Norvell confirmed it last night. Again, huge news for FSU's defensive line depth. Last year, even, you think about where they were as a unit. Nick Saban called it one of the best in college football, right? The defensive line depth, and many were on that train. I remember Pete Thamel and others at ESPN thinking that this was going to be one of the best defensive lines in the country. Well, you've got a Pat Payton on that defensive line who looked like he didn't give a crap after about 5 minutes of that Georgia Tech game, one of your least productive players. Farmer played fairly well. Jackson kind of came on late, but you didn't get really anything else out of the rest of the line. And injuries, transfers, underperformance tanked all of that hype. And you know how the season finished. We don't need to spend a ton of time on that. But this year, the defensive line has certainly been rebuilt. Transfers like Jenkins, James Williams, you've got Jackson back as well, are really big for the Noles. I've heard good things about some other guys on that unit as well. But on Jenkins specifically, him being back at full strength means that Florida State's got another very versatile, explosive piece who can honestly play inside or outside. The depth at defensive tackle worries me some, but can play inside or outside in White's new 3-3-5 defense. And I think that's a game changer for a unit that desperately needs to both be disruptive and needs to have a good amount of depth. Why is it such a big deal that Jenkins is getting back for fall camp? Well, it's all about reps at this point in the year. Fall camp is where you build that chemistry, where you dial in the technique, where you get comfortable within a new scheme. Guys, it is 1,000,000 degrees outside, and I want to give some quick love to our friends over at Locke's Air Conditioning. They are proudly veteran-owned and Tallahassee-born. They are your local experts for top-tier AC service and installs. From Panama City down to Tallahassee, they deliver high-quality, detail-focused work with exceptional customer service. We appreciate them a ton for partnering with us for this season, and we hope that you don't have any AC problems, that you don't have anything that needs to be fixed, that you don't necessarily have to call them, but if you do, we hope you'll call Locke's Air Conditioning. Want to get a tune-up before we get to the hottest part of August? Give them a call. Check them out today online. Great pricing, flexible options. They have the industry's best warranty, 10 years on parts and labor. You can enjoy worry-free comfort for a decade with them. Huge Seminoles fans, just like you and I. Make sure that you check out Locke's Air Conditioning today. Jenkins missed spring ball, so he's certainly been playing catch up and having to work through the rehab process while his teammates are out there learning the system. But getting full go reps means that he's got a solid 3 weeks of camp next to guys like Darrell Jackson, next to guys like James Williams, before having to face off against Alabama's high-powered offense. Let's talk about that Bama matchup for a sec. The Crimson Tide are no joke. Florida State's defensive line needs to bring pressure to disrupt their rhythm, and what we assume is quarterback Ty Simpson's first big start in a big game in a hostile environment. Jenkins' size and versatility, the fact that he can line up as an edge rusher or slide inside, play at the second level, all of that give defensive line coach Terrence Knighton a lot of options for him. The fall camp reps that he will get are critical for Jenkins to shake off the rust, get his timing down, and prove that he can be probably a very key rotational piece. I don't know that he'll start, but a very key rotational piece for the Seminoles. Jenkins isn't just a body, though. He's got the potential to be a true difference maker, especially on third down. His teammates like Darrell Jackson, James Williams have already shouted out for his work in this rehab process. He's been progressing ahead of schedule, like Norvell has hinted at in the past and then confirmed last night. And that's a pretty clear sign that he is locked in and ready to make an impact. Let's zoom out and look at what Jenkins' return means for FSU as a whole. After last year's debacle of a disaster of a season, this program's got something to prove. The defense, especially the defensive line, has to set the tone early, starting with that Alabama game. Jenkins being back at full strength gives FSU a deeper, more physical front that can compete with, let's call it what it is, an SEC powerhouse. I understand the games they lost last year, but I also understand the talent that's on that roster. A healthy Jenkins means FSU can rotate more bodies, keep guys fresh, and handle a schedule that includes really good fronts: Clemson, Miami, Florida, and Alabama. This is also a big deal for Mike Norvell and the culture that he's trying to rebuild after a disastrous season last year. Jenkins chose FSU over other SEC and ACC programs because he bought into what Norvell was selling. His commitment to the rehab shows the kind of buy-in that he needs and that this team needs after last season. If Jenkins can step up as whether it's a leader or a rotational guy or whatever on that defensive line alongside Jackson and others, it's a signal that FSU's culture is trending the right way. FSU has also been notoriously conservative with injuries. They don't rush guys back, especially not a rotational piece that you're going to need to lean on the full year. If this was a piece like a Castellanos, or yeah, maybe you're pushing a little harder. But I think they could probably get away with Jenkins missing a game or two. You really want him for the stretch run in the ACC. I understand all that. They don't rush guys back. They are very careful about that. And so getting him back and him pushing through the rehab process to be in a position to come back is massive. And let's not forget the bigger picture. FSU's defense is under new management with Tony White, who turned Nebraska into a top 20 defensive unit. Jenkins being back with Knighton as your coach on the defensive line, which I've heard really good things about. White has more tools to now work with. Guys who can pressure the QB, stop the run, and really create havoc. If the defensive line lives up to its potential, and that's a big if, it could certainly carry FSU farther than maybe most fans think that they're going to go this year. That's the kind of turnaround that FSU fans certainly want, and maybe after last year and really the last 16 months deserve. Jenkins being full go next week is huge for FSU's defensive line, and the chances against Alabama certainly get better, right? I don't know that that wins you the game, but it certainly does play a part. It's not just about depth. It's about having a playmaker who can set the tone for a huge 2025 season. I'm excited to see what Jenkins brings to this revamped defensive line. I know you are too. Would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. How big is this return? Give us a prediction for the Alabama game while you're down there as well. Let's talk about it in the comments. Again, trying to work toward that 20K number. We are inching closer. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you a ton, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.